Hey man, I saw your video last night and I thought I'd just make like a video just to reply to what I saw, because I really feel for you, man. And when I was watching that video, it made me really sad. But I don't want to make this about me. I just wanted to like make a video just to provide another perspective on your issues and all that. Um, because it's always good just to have like other people's like, sorry. Should have figured out the camera angle before I started, but yeah, I feel like it's always useful just to have like other people's perspectives on the issues, like just so that you're not trapped in like the echo chamber of your mind, and yeah. But I want to kind of like explain like sort of like the direction I'm coming from, because like I'm giving you advice and you would want to know a bit about me, like the person who's about to give you some advice, right? Um, so I'm not gonna come from like a moral high ground sort of perspective and be like, oh, you're shallow for thinking about this way, or give you like feel good platitudes like, oh, like, everyone gets given one life and stuff like that. Like, that's not helpful. Like, it's really rarely ever helpful. There's very specific circumstances that's helpful, and it seems like you would have received that advice a lot of times in the past before, and it wouldn't have helped you. Um, Yeah, so I like to be really like realistic about things and give very honest advice. I'm also gonna be rambling a lot in this video because I didn't exactly plan this through. Um, I did think about what I was gonna say beforehand, but I thought it'd be a lot better if I kind of make like an off-the-cuff video so it can be honest as possible and kind of like, yeah, or like, yeah, real as possible. Um, so I saw that you were going through like a lot of difficult times, and it seems like you're very unhappy in your life right now. And yeah, the main theme of your video was that basically, you know, being unattractive was the main source, if not the source of your problems, of all your problems. Um, and it's why you're so unhappy. And I'm not gonna like sit here and bullshit you and say that your life would be the same if you were more attractive, because obviously it wouldn't be. Like, your life would be different based on the things that you're talking about. Like, people wouldn't be calling you ugly and stuff like that. But there are a couple of things that I want to challenge, like the idea that being more attractive necessarily is a one-to-one correlation with happiness. Like, like you've heard before, like attractive people are treated better, they have more friends, more sex. But does that necessarily like lead to a one-to-one like increase in happiness? I'm not so sure about that. And here's why. I'm gonna explain why. So first off, like, we know, like, well, I know, and I'm sure you know as well, that attractive people aren't automatically granted a happier life. And the reason why I know that you know that is because you told me about how, like, when you were like trying to look for other videos of like other people struggling with like, you know, the way they look, like you found all these videos of like of guys that were attractive or average talking about how they were unattractive, and you were like, oh, well, clearly all these guys need is just a bit more confidence. So right there, like, that tells me, like, like maybe not explicitly, but that implies that you know that being attractive doesn't necessarily grant you straight away, like, automatically happiness and confidence. And you know, you can't really just say like someone just needs more confidence. Like, it's very, maybe you're not saying this right, but in case you don't know, it'd be better if this was a face-to-face conversation, but obviously that can't easily happen. So I'm just gonna try and like anticipate your responses. So yeah, I don't mean to assume anything, but in case you, sorry, I had to cut the video there just to go get a drink of water, and also because the audio was cutting out a bit. Yeah, so as I was saying, it would be a lot better if this was a face-to-face conversation, so I don't have to like um, assume and anticipate what you're gonna say, and kind of like, because I feel like I'm kind of beating around the bush trying to like cover all the bases of what you could possibly say, but having confidence is half the battle. Like, I guarantee you, like if you go up to those guys and you say to them, you just need a bit more confidence, like you know that's not gonna work. And even if you try your best to convince them that they just need a bit more confidence, it takes such a long time, and it's like literally half the battle. Like, it's like, yeah, I guess the main point I'm trying to make here is like, yeah, being happy doesn't like automatically grant you happiness. Like, being attractive doesn't automatically grant you happiness. And you know, like there's been research done about this, but you don't have to trust the research because some psychology research can't really be replicated because it's so subjective. But um, I could talk about like people from my own personal life. Like, I know a lot of people that are attractive that just don't live happy lives, and bad shit happens to them all the time. And unattractive people, like really, really unattractive people that live really, really happy lives, like more happy than probably the average. Um, and it's just like for example, like I know this really attractive guy, like his girlfriend cheated on him, and she sent like a video of her fucking another guy, and it's just, I don't know, it's stuff like that that's like that sometimes shit just happens that just breaks your heart, and being attractive doesn't grant you immunity to it, you know. Um, And if you look at like, I don't know, like, okay, celebrities, like we all know celebrities, right? If you look at like, there's a lot of attractive celebrities out there, and I'm gonna be mainly like naming male celebrities, and just like this is gonna be like really like this whole video is gonna be like focused on like men and like how like attractiveness matters to them, because that seems to be like the sort of thing that you want to be hearing about. So like, you know, Johnny Depp, and like all the girls seem to be after him, and he struggles a lot with anxiety and depression. And same with Chris Evans, yeah. Um, but you might argue that, oh, but that's not what I was saying. Like, I wasn't saying that being attractive makes you happier. I mean, makes you happy automatically. I'm saying that it makes you happier, and it doesn't like, you know, and that being unattractive is like really the main issue here. It's not like about being attractive, it's about being unattractive. And I guess I could um, argue that perspective too. So because I'm trying to understand your perspective based on just like videos that I've watched of you. Like, I haven't talked to you, but from the impression I get from your videos is you seem to think that attractiveness is like, it's like a determiner for like a lot of things in life, and it's like an open secret that if you aren't attractive, that you're automatically doomed to like a lesser life outside of your control, and people just treat you better. They're just more biased towards you if you're attractive, and it's just that you seem to be like talking from a very hopeless perspective. Like, you can't do anything about your attractiveness, and people are going to treat you bad no matter what. And I do agree with the fact that there is a bias towards attractiveness in life. But I'm gonna try and challenge whether or not that matters. Like, yeah, it's true, but does it really matter? You know? I think it matters to some extent, but I guess the main focus of this video isn't about how you can be more attractive or whatever. It's about whether or not a solution exists for you to be happy, and if that solution is like worth it, because you mention a lot throughout your videos that you feel like a lot of things are pointless, that a lot of things you feel like won't get you anywhere, and you're still going to end up very unhappy. Um, I want to challenge that idea that just because you're unattractive doesn't necessarily mean that there's no way you can be eventually happy and sustain that. Keep in mind, with this video, I'm not trying to tell you like you're wrong for thinking this way. I'm just trying to give you like perspectives to consider, because I haven't lived your life, and I'm not gonna try and pretend I know more than you, especially because you seem. I'm not. I don't mean this in a patronizing way, but I feel like you might take it this way, just based on the sort of things, like kind of like you seem to be a bit cynical at times, but I feel like you're a switched on guy, and you know, yeah, I wouldn't come at you and think that I'm about to teach this guy some things, you know, but let me drink some water. Alright, how do I brush this? I reckon. Alright, so throughout your videos, right, you mentioned a lot about how being unattractive was the source of like the main source, if not the source for all your problems. And it was very funny to me because you would just casually mention like very like serious things, but you would gloss over them because you would just gloss over these like very like big things that were indicative of greater problems, unrelated to attractiveness, by the way, that could possibly very likely make you like unhappy today. But you seem to attribute a lot of your problems just to being unattractive. So I'm not trying to call you out or make digs at you, but I wonder if there's like a bit of a confirmation bias going on. If because you think being unattractive is the source of all your problems, doesn't necessarily mean that it is the source of all your problems. And I also want to encourage you to think, just because you've been trying to make the most out of your life, your entire life, doesn't necessarily mean that you've been going about it in the right way. And I know that sounds very, very like, it's like I'm being blunt here because I'm not really sure how else to word it. And I know that sounds very like presumptuous on my part, because I haven't lived your life, and now I'm saying that maybe you haven't lived your life in the most efficient way. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. And I know it does sound a lot like that, but I'm more trying to say like, trying to like give you hope, in the sense that maybe there are approaches that you haven't considered yet to make your life happier. And I'm not just saying trying to give you blind hope, but I really do believe that there are certain like illogical ways that you're thinking. Because throughout your videos, you mentioned like how like you moved away with your mom, and you moved schools a lot, and how you were homeschooled, if I remember correctly, and how your mom gave cigarettes out to kids to be your friends, and how your mom only visits you every once in a while. And you mentioned like the girl, like how she like, because her parents said you were like, okay, so I'm just gonna cover that first half. Like already, like that kind of points to me like whether or not you were attractive or unattractive, that's a turbulent childhood. And I'm not just labeling things randomly here, because I actually like, the reason why I picked up on that was because I lived a very similar childhood to that. Like my parents divorced and I changed schools like 6-7 times. I can tell you, no matter how attractive I am, that that would have impacted me no matter what. Because a lot of things happened when I changed schools. Like, I got bullied, it was hard to settle in, all these things. So no wonder like you would be unhappy. Changing schools that much and not even going to school for a brief period of time, that would like really impact your social skills. And humans are social creatures. Like having less social skills and being like less able to socialize with other people, well, that would very likely make you unhappy. And I don't want to make any assumptions about your personal life here, but since like you're putting everything out there, it kind of does sound like your mom was almost negligent. Like, I don't know, man. This is something you gotta think about yourself, because these are very big things that could easily, easily be the primary like source of your unhappiness today, without you even realizing it. Like, the main reason why I'm pointing this out is because, to use an analogy, let's say you were in a car crash, right? You came out, you broke your back, your pelvis, your legs, and you can't walk, and you're like, I can't walk because my legs are broken. You're not wrong, but if you focused all your energy on fixing your legs, you'll find out eventually that you still can't walk. And you've used all that like time and energy trying to fix just your legs when you could have, it was your back and your pelvis that was also contributing to that problem. Like if you don't recognize like certain problems, you can't even start to fix them. Um so don't know, man. Like family, like your early childhood and how your family responds to you and all that, that's a big indicator of like your future self-esteem, your identity as an adult, and all that. Like countless psychological studies have been like done on this subject matter. So maybe look into that. And the way you could look into that is, well, yeah, self-reflection and self-awareness, but this is the sort of thing that you need a good counselor and psychologist to help you through. And the reason why you need a psychologist and a counselor to help you through these things instead of doing it just by yourself is because it's like trying to get good at a sport, like really good at a sport without a coach. Having someone on the outside perspective that can give you like no bullshit answers and really analyze your problems and kind of give you like, because like all these things might be like the norm for you. Like you might not even realize that they're the source of your unhappiness because that's the only reality you ever knew. Like you didn't realize that, oh, maybe my mom shouldn't have beat my ass like 10 times a day when I was a kid and now I'm unhappy. Like you might not even realize that was a bad thing because it happened every day. And a lot of these things that I'm saying like come from like, yeah, come from personal experience as well. So yeah, I'm just trying to be as honest with you as possible. Um, Another thing that you mentioned was, okay, this is something interesting like here that you might get something out of this. So your girlfriend who like her like she thought you were a normal guy and all that, but then when she showed a picture of you to her family, they started talking shit about you. That's fucked up, man. Like that's a reflection on them. You might be right in saying that if I was more attractive, they wouldn't have done that, but whether or not you were more attractive, that's still fucked up on them. To use an analogy, right? If someone was racist to you, and like if they started talking shit about you being white, for example, and they're like, man, it must suck to be white. I'm not letting my daughter get with you because you're white. You're not gonna be like, well, hopefully, right? You're not gonna be like, I wish I wasn't white. I wish I was a different race. You're not, hopefully not, right? So I can understand in that circumstance why you would want to be more attractive, however, but it's really more so a bigger reflection. Like that's the bigger picture here. Like it's more of like, you might not believe me here because of your like past experiences and all that, convincing you to think that, you know, attractiveness doesn't matter a lot. But the bigger picture here is really that that family seems very messed up. And that girl you mentioned had family problems, and she came to stay with you a lot. And she seemed to be very angry, and that's also a reflection on her, not necessarily on you. And the reason why I say this is, even if you were more attractive, like if you were very attractive, I feel like in that circumstance, with that girl and her family, it would be like trying to fix a leak by putting a bowl under the leak rather than patching the leak. Because if you were more attractive, that girl would still have family problems. Like her family would still be messed up. You don't know how else they're gonna treat you. For whatever other, sorry, I thought someone was there. For whatever other reasons, they would treat you bad, and they probably would treat you bad in other ways. It just wouldn't be focused on your attractiveness now. But of course, this is hypothetical, you know. But it just seems to me like it's a very messed up thing to make. Like, even though you didn't care, it's a very messed up thing to make. Like, still want to be with someone, but make them walk 10 feet behind you so they want to be associated with you, yeah? This is sort of like back in the old days when, like, white and black people couldn't marry and they couldn't be associated. It's not that being black is inherently bad or being white is inherently bad. It's just, it was just like the way other people viewed them. If she saw that you were perfectly fine, what right does her family have to say about you? Yeah. But I do understand what you mean. But you would want to be more attractive for other reasons as well, not just that. Here's another thing. You say that you've been putting in a lot of effort to... This is gonna sound very weird, but like, you can tell that I'm getting very riled up. It's just, you just seem to experience so many bad shit, and you might be very confused with like why like a stranger might be caring, but it's so fucked up, man. Like, honestly, like I really don't have any ulterior motives at all. You're like wondering why like a random stranger on the internet cares this much, but I seriously think what you've been through is very fucked up. Here's another thing that I feel like I should let you know. Oh, maybe I do have an ulterior motive in the sense that when I was a kid, I went through like a lot of like, I'm just trying to level with you here, and I hope this isn't too much information, but I went through a lot of difficult times, and I wish somebody was there for me, you know? So I'm like, it makes me like understanding, a bit more understanding of your situation, which is why I want to reach out and help you. But which is partially also, I should mention, this is why I made like a video, because there was just so much shit I wanted to say, and I knew if I typed it in text, you wouldn't be watching it. And by making a video, not only can you hear and see the sort of person I am, my mannerisms and all that, and kind of like, it will make me a lot more personable, and it will give you more information on whether or not you can trust me. I don't mind if you don't trust me. It's just I want to put it out there and kind of like, yeah. Anyways, getting back on track. Um, so you mentioned a lot about how you're trying to overcome like the disadvantages of being unattractive by going online, writing to people, online dating. I don't know how to say this, man, but I'm gonna be blunt here. Online dating's fucking weird, man. Dead set. I only know so many people that online date, and it's on things like Tinder. If you go on the more niche websites and all that, it attracts a very particular crowd. And I can tell you very personally, if I went online dating, the same girl that I might attract in real life, I wouldn't attract through online dating. I can tell you, like, for sure, like, it would be half or even less. Like, it's just, online dating is like a very shallow, like, a lot of the people that I know in person that are some of the best people ever. Never touched online dating, because it's like it's a very niche crowd. I don't know how to like drive this point home, because I'm just gonna be blunt from here onwards, and I wish I could be talking face to face just to kind of gauge how you react and respond. And it could kind of change the way I kind of say things, but you did mention a lot about how you struggled making friends, and I feel like that's probably also something you should be concerned about. Like very much so, something you should be concerned about, because I don't know how to describe this to you if you don't really have like a frame, like a framework or like a perspective to kind of understand this from. But real life people are so different to people on the internet. Some of the internet like forums, like I'm the odd one out of my friends. Like I'm like the only one that goes on the internet and stuff like that, and it's just because I'm curious, right? And there's a lot of websites that are mainstream on the internet that my friends have never gone on, never like really taken seriously. Like, 4chan, the random board, that attracts a very particular crowd. I know one person out of everyone I've met in my life that's like that goes on that image board, that acts in that similar way. That kind of like depressed sort of way and all that. So don't take online dating too seriously, but I know the damage has already been done. And you probably won't believe me because, fuck man, like it seems like your self-esteem is really being brought down really low because of online dating, which is sad to hear. Fuck, it's so hot in this car. What else? So I guess you should consider what I've said so far, and I guess the main thing I was trying to argue is, like, just because you're unattractive, does that really mean that life's always going to be difficult for you, and there's no way for you to be happier? And because you say a lot that things are pointless, and I've come from that perspective before, and you feel like it's not worth it. But I wonder if, because you seem to be stuck, like, even though you've gone through all these things, like, you seem to be stuck in this kind of clinging on to this idea of wanting to be attractive and all that, and trying to date and trying to get someone to like you and all that stuff. It's like, I wonder what if you step outside that perspective. Like, I'm trying my best to describe this in a way that doesn't sound like, bro, it's all about perspective, bro. Like, I'm trying to get away from that sort of like feel good platitude. Like, I'm trying to say it like, what if there's a fucking spider in my car? What if it's because you were constantly clinging onto this idea of like confirmation bias? I don't know, man. I don't know. Because you've heard of things like, because from my experience, from my life experience, I've seen a lot of like unattractive people being very happy and being in very loving relationships. And it's true though that people do treat attractive people differently and unattractive people differently. But I'm not sure if that's like that necessarily means, oh, you're gonna be unhappy as a result. Because something tells me you'd get used to it after a while, wouldn't you? You would, wouldn't you? Like, deaf people are always saying things like, I don't know any better about not being able to hear, so I don't, like, I wouldn't, like, really care if I got the sense of hearing back or whatever. You might think that's a self-defense mechanism, and it could be, but I think they're true. Like, what they're saying is true to some extent, Because it has been, like, their only, like,
relative like mindset, like framework throughout the entire life. They just wouldn't know any difference. So why would they care? So it seems to me like, why wouldn't, like, people like that have been in accidents, they've lost their legs and all that. Like there's been studies done on this, like about the hedonic treadmill. Like, yeah, they suffer a massive like reduction in quality of life, but after a while you see that they'll like reach the same level of happiness just as before. Why is that? They say it's because of this thing called the hedonic treadmill, where you adjust to good and bad things. Like as you get more and more things that make you happier, you adjust to it, you know? And the converse is also true, unsurprisingly. If you get like put in bad situations, you adjust to it. And it becomes your new normal and you're just as happy as before. And I can definitely vouch for that. Like that's happened in my life as well. Like there's been a couple of times that I can remember very well where I'm like, if I just got this one thing, if I did this, if I achieved this, I'll be so happy and I'll just sustain it for such a long time. But nah, man. I reach it and then I get a new goal. And same with like the opposite. Like I think, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. If it happens, I'm gonna be so sad. It's gonna really affect my life. But then I reach it and I am sad. But it doesn't last long because I adapt to it. So I'm wondering why that wouldn't apply to your like unattractiveness, you know? And I guess there's two arguments that can be made here. The first argument is that you are so unattractive that life's just shit and there's no way you can get out of it. The second one is it's because it's almost as if you keep worrying about it, and it's your worry that's creating this fear, like maintaining and sustaining it for so long. And I know that sounds very like I'm worried that like when I say these things, like you might think that I'm just saying it just to be nice or whatever, trying to make you think in a positive way when it's not really true. But I really do wonder, like, why should unattractiveness be the exception? Like people lose their legs and all that all the time, and they cope eventually and they resume a normal life. So how comes your unattractiveness is bothering you so much? I wonder if it's because you kind of cling on to like this idea for so long that you have to be attractive or average or just attractive enough. And also you also visit a lot of message boards, and you say that you talk to a lot of people like this. That's like a sort of confirmation bias that keeps the cycle going on. Yeah. Also, you mentioned that you like helping people and that you're able to make them feel better about themselves. And I really do believe that. Like the way you speak, you seem to have a lot of honesty and you speak in a very calm, very stoic almost sort of way. I do believe you have helped and can help a lot of people. So, I wonder, what would you say if someone who was in the exact same situation like you came up to you and asked for advice? What would you tell them? And have you taken that advice? A couple of other things I want to mention, right? It's just off the cuff. It's just interesting. Like, seem to think about attractiveness in a very mechanical, almost forced way. Like you say, oh, if I put my chin out and stuff like that, and I, flex it, like it makes my jawline like stronger, and I look more attractive. Like, nah, man, don't do that. Don't, because it looks very unnatural. It's like the equivalent would be like, oh, big eyes are attractive, so you should always look at people like this. Don't, man. Like I'm just trying to be honest with you here. It's very obvious, like you're thinking too much about this. Like you're forcing it, and that you're not even able to think about it like in a natural way. I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah. So I hope that video helps. There's a lot more I want to say, but it's hard to say because I have to like talk to you, gauge your response, and adapt what I say to that. The main practical takeaway is I genuinely do wonder, like I can't say for sure, like it's all hypothetical, if attractiveness is really the main source of your problems. If you can change, because obviously they say life is all about perspective, right? But I know if I tell you that, you're gonna be like, but yeah, but to a certain extent, you can't like easily change your perspective like that easily. To a certain extent, it kind of like starts to feel pointless, and it's like you have to change your perspective so drastically that it's almost unsustainable to view life in a more positive, more like to be happier just by like changing your perspective. But I do feel like it is possible for you to change your perspective, and it would be hard work, but it's very achievable. Not it's achievable as in it's realistic if you put in the right amount of work. It's not like achievable in the sense that like becoming a millionaire is achievable, like that's a bit out of reach. But this stuff, don't know, man. I think there's some work you can do and it's still within your reach. I really do. And yeah, the main practical takeaway from this is get a psychologist. You mentioned a lot about like shitty healthcare system and stuff like that, but I think you should get a psychologist. Like I don't know how, because it's just so difficult. Like you sound like you don't have a job, you don't have the motivation to find a job, all that. But definitely get a good psychologist, man. And I'm not just like handballing, like, or just like pushing you like to your problems to like some other person saying like fix it like this, like but because from my experience, having a psychologist and a good one, you'd be surprised about sort of blind spots that you had in your thinking. And yeah, it's very hard to give you advice on this because stuff like this is not simple. It's like trying to change political opinions, religious beliefs, that sort of stuff. Very hard to change people's minds on this, but all I can tell you is for sure, if you, yeah, from my perspective, I really do believe if you had the right mindset, and it's very achievable with some hard work, you'll get to a better spot in your life. Definitely. Thanks for watching my video, man. Best wishes.